the all defensive team. I feel like there is a big disconnect between who players view as great defenders and the reputation of some players amongst the media as great defenders. Kevin, I want to ask you about Jrue specifically, Jrue Holiday, because we've talked to a bunch of people on this podcast. Iggy came out on a podcast recently, and he said Jrue's the best defender that he's seen. Damian Lillard said he's the best defender he's seen. I feel like amongst our peers, Jrue is up there, and I think he's only made like one all-defensive team. And having been his teammate this year and watched him literally lock up people 1 through 5, whether it was Damian Lillard or Nikola Jokic, he guarded everybody and did well against everybody. And I just feel like there's this disconnect about who gets votes.
Yeah, Jrue Holiday is solidified as probably the best defender in the league at the guard position. The way he, well, when we talk about defense, a lot of people don't really understand what defense really means. You know, it's for different positions, especially at the point guard, the stuff you got to do to guard. They don't get a lot of credit for fighting over screens, and especially now they getting screened at half court. Guys that run off a pin down. So I feel like it's a huge discrepancy between what the players think and what the media thinks. It's just because we're in it every day. We understand what a good possession of defense is, and we understand how a lot of these guys are undervalued, and their perception goes a long way. So I don't know, man. I see a lot of guys in the league who get overlooked for their defensive prowess, and then I see the guys on the defensive team. I'm like, oh, it's so easy to score on this guy. It's like
in fairness, though, it's pretty easy for you to score against anybody.
No, but yeah, I get that, but I watch a lot of games too. Like I see a lot of defensive player of the years who teams have targeted in the playoffs and had to play them off the court for because they couldn't guard a pick and roll or they couldn't guard a wing player on a switch. You know what I'm saying? So those guys get looked at as the best defenders in the league. So much of the all defensive team is about the system you're in and the coach you have. And I'm not saying any of those guys are bad defenders. None of the guys that I think are on the two teams this year are bad defenders. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you put Jrue on Boston, you put Jrue in Utah, and you put Jrue in LA with the Clippers, and all of a sudden his defensive advanced stats are through the roof. And all of a sudden he's now considered maybe a defensive player of the year. And so I think he gets knocked a little bit because our team defense wasn't great this year. Yeah, for sure. That definitely plays a huge part. When you're surrounded by good smart defenders, you're definitely gonna shine. But he could, like you said, he could stand out anywhere. You put Jrue in any system, any coach is gonna ask him to guard the best player. I mean, we played them in 2018 second round, and he guarded me the whole series. And he was picking me up full court. He was guarding me in the post. And it was tough to dribble on Jrue Holiday. He slides his feet so well. He got good hands. He's strong. He got good instincts. Like, I gained a lot of respect for him in that series because he went from guarding me to Clay to Steph to guarding Draymond, neutralizing pick and rolls. Like he's special. He's special on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, if it's your job to write about basketball and it's your job to analyze basketball, you should know what the fuck you're talking about. And look, there are people in the media who I think watch enough basketball, ask the right questions to players and general managers and coaches, and really want to get an understanding of the nuances. And what gets me mad is, like, I'll point something out, like the gather step. I pointed out the gather step on a move the other day on Instagram, and I had people arguing with me that it was a travel. And I'm like, no, it's in the fucking rule book. It's not. It's not a travel. And it's the same thing with defense. Like, Kendrick Perkins said something the other day, and people are clapping back at him. And he reached out to me and he's like, "Yo, I was right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, you were right. Like that's just basic rotational defense."
Oh, and the Eric Gordon clip.
The Eric Gordon clip, yeah. And everybody's saying it was Russ. And it was like, no, Russ sank on the low man. He did what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, he's supposed to X out to the corner. See, it's just the small nuances people don't understand, and it's real subtle in NBA defenses, like who Xing out to the corner, how we switching, what we forcing the pick and roll. It's just like the terminology is, it's just a lot of people don't understand because it's you got to get deep into coaching. You got to be at practices. You got to be talking to assistant coaches. You got to be doing research to really understand what's going on out there on defense, especially.
Kevin, I talk all the time about how important it is just to watch the game as a player. And I know you watch a lot of games. I mean, I'm like a league pass guy every night. I watch nearly every playoff game. If I'm not doing something with my kids, I'm watching the NBA. And with respect to defense, I think one of the things that some people have a hard time understanding is the game is always evolving, and so coverages are always evolving. And I pointed this out when Devin Booker was doing some things in the seeding games, and I always talk about the drop coverage. And if you have a guy like Devin, if you have a guy like Dame, like you at some point you have to make an adjustment. And this is one of the reasons I think Milwaukee has problems in the playoffs, is because they go so strong the entire regular season on playing one specific way. And look, it works in the regular season, but they're not ready to make those adjustments in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, defense, you have to be willing to adapt. I mean, you look at Toronto, you look in one quarter, they might throw out a 2-3 or a 1-3-1 and then go back to a man, so they try to throw in different defenses and work on the fly. They rotate fast. They might double the post and, out of nowhere and somebody got to help down on the. So everybody got to be on one string. And I feel like a lot of teams just want to cover the paint and contest threes. You know what I'm saying? So you sitting in a drop coverage against Damian Lillard or Devin Booker or James Harden, you're going to get those scores going because we see space and you pull up in the mid-range, or you get a good screen one time and this guy's all the way in the paint and you're shooting a jump shot or a floater. It's like sometimes you might have to adjust and switch your coverage up. And I feel like a lot of teams now are just sticking with that, especially in the drop. If we're going to be specific with that coverage, I see that in the playoffs all the time. And I'm looking at all of these scores getting 40s and 50s. I'm like, yo, if you just move up a tad bit on that screen, you might affect this offensive player right now. So it's crazy to see the game evolve, but you definitely have to adapt with it.